Are you ready for this?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right.
1、2、3、行こう Sanqu!
Hello and welcome to this video. And today it's all about fantasy and Rocket League. Today with me is Llama, my best friend and the best teammate I've ever had. How are you?
I'm doing very well, thank you.
Nice to hear. Nice to hear. All right, so I don't know if you know, but as it happened in the past few seasons, Rocket-League.com is Rocket-League.com is actually having a fantasy game for Rocket League players. So today we're gonna pick a team. We talk about the system a little bit, and we hope we can encourage you to make a team yourself and be part of this community, right? So Llama, you already made your team, right?
I did, yes.
Okay, so now it's my turn to pick a team. So we click here, pick a team. Yeah, man, I'm super excited. And what we can see here is we can pick 6 team members, right? And we have a budget of $10,000, I guess. And yeah, and on the left we see all the players that are available, from Express all the way down to Tadpole. Unfortunately, he's all the way down here.
Poor Tadpole, yeah.
Poor Tadpole.
Underrated.
Underrated, definitely underrated. And yeah, all the teams that made it to RLCS League Play are in here, and all the players, obviously. And to me, at least, some of them I know because they're like established pros, but like there are players that I've not heard of, since I'm not really into esports as much as you are, I guess, Llama.
Yeah.
You know every single player, right?
I know everyone, yeah.
And you know their play style.
Yeah.
So how do you go about picking your team? Like, how did you start picking your team? What was your first move?
My first move was to pick a couple players that I know are very good, and then build the rest of the team around that. And I'd basically recommend that to everyone, especially if you're starting out and you just know a couple pop-off players. And I'd do that.
So I remember last year I played the Fantasy League. So I have some experience in the system itself, but I played it like according to statistics, like who's good and who's a good pick for their money. And so I remember that CJ was really, really going off last season.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I mean, coming from OCE, it's kind of a more skewered league. So NA and EU, all the teams are quite close, whereas in OCE there's top 2, top 3 teams, and then everyone else is, it's fair to say, quite far below the skill level. So CJ being on one of the best teams in OCE, he's just going to stomp on everyone else in the league. So really good pick to rack up some points.
So it's not necessarily that you have to pick the best players, but you want to pick the players that score the most points, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Because fantasy points, they are calculated by the points that you get on the, like, let's call them experience points in Rocket League, where you get 100 points for a goal, I think, right? Or something like that, 50 for an assist. Yeah. All these kind of stats, those are the stats that matter to this fantasy game. So yeah. CJ, like you said, if he's on a team that's far ahead of or pretty far ahead of the other competing teams in OCE, then they probably score a lot of points. That's what you're saying, right?
Yeah. So
really I mean, from my experience, I'm down for picking CJ here.
Yeah.
I just add him to my team. There you go. Took a few clicks, but maybe I missed. But I got him. All right. So Cooksy, like, he's a legend. Like,
yes.
And he's also quite expensive. But I mean, how many expensive players can you have? I guess not 6.
Not 6, no. So, I mean, not even 5 for the amount that CJ is.
Yeah.
So you got to balance expensive players and maybe mid-tier, lower-tier players price-wise.
Oh yeah, and I forgot to mention actually the thing that keeps it interesting doing the league play is that you can have transfers, and you also have positions on your team, right? You have what positions do you have? What is it?
Attacker, midfielder, and defender.
Attacker, midfielder, and defender. And the advantage that the position has is when an attacker, for example, scores a goal, these points of scoring a goal are being doubled, right? and for the same for assists for a midfielder and saves for a defender. So
Yes.
we have to also, do we have to consider it now what positions we like give them?
I think you roughly consider it, but I wouldn't base your entire team around having 2 set defenders, 2 set attackers, and 2 set midfielders. I don't think it's because I think everyone can play a role in attack, defense, and midfield, so I don't think it's too important to consider right now.
Yeah, there's just not really dedicated roles in a team, right?
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So yeah, let's see. Do you pick like is it okay to pick people that are on the same team, or?
Yeah, I think it's perfectly okay. Personally, I don't, because if you pick 2 players from the same team and that team performs poorly,
Both of
one week
them,
in particular,
yeah, I see
both
what
of
you
them
mean.
suffer. Yeah, you want to have
okay.
a nice rounded out team, in my opinion. But I mean, it could work if a team plays really well one week and you have 2 players on that team. Who knows, you know?
I think the next player that pops up here in my eyes is Jules. He was really good last year, but he was also really cheap last year on last season better. And now he's like really expensive. He must have performed quite well.
But it shows you how well he played last season, yeah.
Yeah, it's really crazy. If I remember correctly, he was like 1,000 or even less than $1,000. And I remember having him on my team, and I think he was like top 15 points per game or whatever the rankings were in fantasy.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool. All right, we have to pick, we have to make a second pick here, otherwise this video is gonna blow YouTube up with the time it needs. All right, how would you like spend all your cap for players that you want, or would you like maybe pick a low cost player at this point?
I would pick high cost players, maybe 2, 3 high cost players, and then you balance out. You see how much budget you have remaining, and you fill out your team based on that. But I'd say definitely at least 2 really high profile players, 1900 up, that are going to perform well.
What do you think about fan favorite Squishy Muffins? That's a solid pick, or that sound.
It's interesting because, in my opinion, Squishy is an incredible player. Obviously, everyone knows that, but so's Torment and so is Gimmick. So Squishy's on a team where every single person can do every role, nearly perfectly, and Squishy's not known to be the most consistent player in the world.
I mean, if I get the opportunity to draw a comparison to my gameplay, yeah. But if I'm on a team, if I'm on a team where my opponents have, let's say, less experience in playing Rocket League than I do, then I usually tend to have the highest amount of points, right?
Yeah.
So if you have a very even team, they might actually, that's what I think you could call it, they steal the points from each other, if you look at it from a fantasy point of view.
Yeah, exactly. So on Cloud9, for example, as you've just mentioned, if you have 3 players that can do every role perfectly, then all of them, chances are they're going to have an even set of points, 300 across the board, as opposed to CJ having 600 and his teammates maybe having less. Although his teammates are brilliant players.
They are pretty good. I think the factor for Icon Esports is just that they are OCE and they're just 100%. Not as good as team, or like the league is not as balanced as the others are.
Yeah, so Icon Esports most likely are going to destroy 6, 7 other teams in their league.
They most likely will destroy.
I mean, yeah, so they're going to get a lot of points.
Maybe they won't destroy as much, but they will destroy. All right. Yeah, cool. Okay, so Squishy Muffins fan favorite might not be the best fantasy pick. Let's go on here. So, do you have a recommendation for the next pick here? What if we scroll? I scroll down here slowly, and you just name.
Yeah, my recommendation would be Garrett G.
Garrett G from NRG Esports. Yeah. So why is that? Why would you pick? I'll go with my expert friend here. I pick this guy.
So in my opinion, he's the best player in North America. He's on NRG, which is, there's a big 3 in North America. It's NRG, G2, and Cloud9. They're widely considered to be the better teams, at the top. So they're going to play very well, especially against the bottom tier teams like Splice, Rogue, So they're going to be racking up a lot of points. And as I said, Garrett G, in my opinion, the best player in North America. Why wouldn't you want him on your team? It's very consistent.
Okay, interesting. So also Rogue and another a top team, G2 Esports, you just mentioned. They have an interesting story because, I mean, even I know that Chronovi just, let's find him actually. Oh, he should be down here somewhere. All right, he's more in the lower budget. I think. Oh, he is. So he just got released from G2 Esports and found a spot on Rogue, on the roster of Rogue, right?
Yes.
So that's also quite interesting. I mean, this matchup, I'm looking forward to this matchup.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. He's been on G2 since season 2, I think.
Since forever.
Yeah. So it's insane to see him, one, not a part of that org, but two, be kicked by the two players that he built his team around, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah.
And actually, here's the guy that replaced him up here, Chicago.
Yeah. Just above him.
Just above him. Well, you can think whatever you want about that. But yeah, I'm down with picking Garrett G. I mean, he's on one of the best teams, and he's still able to like stack up the points.
Yeah.
So probably good pick. I mean, we already have like 4,000 of our budget. Is almost 4,000 of our budget. It's gone already for 2 players. I guess we're on a good way to get a good team here.
Yeah.
So, and next spot is probably a less expensive player.
I would say so. Yeah.
Maybe you should actually look like on the ones like, obviously you want players that are really cheap to perform really well to make it like a valuable pick. So maybe we look on the bottom end here. Maybe. What do you think about that idea?
Yeah, go for it.
I mean, Karma. Like I'm personally a fan of Karma. First
yeah,
RLCS
no, she's a brilliant player.
Right?
No, she played in season 2 of RLCS.
Oh, but
she's a contender.
Oh
yeah.
Yes, okay, so
and she's finally back after 5 seasons.
Nice, finally made it back. Yeah, I just heard that she made it, and it was a long run.
A long journey.
Long journey, yeah, exactly.
Definitely good enough though. A very talented player.
All right, here's a teammate of Garrett G, Fireburner.
Yeah.
He's like $400 less.
Yeah, I mean, Fireburner is incredible. Honestly, I think you might struggle getting too many fantasy points with him, with Garrett and Justin stealing the show, but you never know. Honestly, I mean, it's the beauty of fantasy. Literally any player could pop off.
Yeah, it's the beauty of Rocket League in general. Like,
yeah.
I mean, we had these stories a couple of times. The most recent one being at the Speedy. Is it Speed or Speedy?
Speed, yeah.
Speed. Yeah, I mean, I'm I'm bad at esports, but I mean, some of the name was correct. So yeah, he had like the 0 to hero story.
Well, yeah, he qualifies for RLCS with triple trouble. He replaces Yukio for F3 last minute, and they end up winning a major. Which is quite incredible. Yeah, they beat Cloud9 in the semis and NRG in the finals. So yeah, dominated basically. Yeah, Speed's a very good pick.
Crazy. Speed's a very good pick. Let's talk about Tadpole though.
Yeah.
Like, I know I follow this guy on Twitter, and he was tweeting about his value in fantasy. He was selling himself like on sale.
I mean, I personally don't think he should be the lowest rated at all. I think Tadpole's a bargain, and you'd be very smart to put him in your team.
Let's do this. I mean, personally, I enjoy following his Twitter account, so I feel a little bit more related to esports if I do this. Let's pick him.
He's a great player as well, so that helps. Yeah. And he's a Welsh. I think he's the first ever Welsh player to make RLCS. I might be wrong in that, so don't quote me. But first one.
You have all these background knowledge. I didn't even know. Like, I've never made my mind up about the nationality or even the native language of these guys. You know?
Oh yeah. Well, yeah.
And then you see people from PSGs, like you follow them on Twitter and they tweet in French.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh yeah. They're French.
They're French.
Wow, mind blowing. Yeah, just something I never.
Oh yeah, no, it's interesting.
Here it is, Speed.
Speed, yeah, Englishman.
Englishman. You think that's a good pick?
I think he is. Honestly, I haven't put him in my team, but I don't think you'd be.
I mean, I don't want to copy your team, otherwise we have the same rank all the time. So that's
So
my pick.
I think
here,
Speed's
okay?
a brilliant pick. Yeah, he played incredible at WSOE. He's an RLCS rookie, but XF3. You know, they're one of the top teams. They're established, one of the top teams in Europe, and I think he'll play really, really well.
And I mean,
yeah.
he plays with like the legend.
Yeah, Mystic and Cook, who have been teamed for like
I don't know.
So 4 seasons now. This is going to be their 4th.
All right, so we have $3,200 left in our budget.
Yeah,
that's.
I mean, on average, 1,600 per player. So you might be able to get, you know, an 1,800 player or 1,400. Either way, you've got a lot of money to spend for 2 players.
Yeah, let's
a lot of
look
leeway.
up here in the more expensive area. All right, so let's maybe Triple Trouble is a European team, right? So is XF3.
Yes.
Then we have a North American team and one Oceania team.
Yes.
OCE. So, what is like? Does it even matter now? Like, we picked the most dominant player in the most dominant team of OCE already. Is there another thing that you might want to look for in an American player, or what do you think?
Oh, as in
region, does it matter at this point?
I don't think it matters at all. No, you see some people having all North America teams, all Europe teams. I don't think it personally matters at all. Yeah. You know, another team that's performed very well recently, which I'm looking to do. I'm looking for them to do good things in RLCS. It's Vitality, K-Dop, Therapy, and Scrub Killer. So I think one of those on the fantasy team would not be a bad shout at all.
Yeah, I mean, we all like Scrub Killer. Let's pick him and see what we got for 1,400.
Yeah, honestly, there's a filter players thing as well, so you can just 1,400 and just go down.
Get into the on the user experience side of things here.
Yeah, exactly. It's really easy to use. It's brilliant.
Oh yeah, you don't have to scroll all the time. All right.
Not a lot of players.
Not a lot of players, and one we already picked one. Yeah. So I know a lot, and also a lot of these players I have never heard about, to be honest.
Yeah. I mean, do you want me to say like who I'd personally go with, or?
Yeah, I mean, talk about them.
Okay, so Tapple, you've already picked him. You have a player from Ghost, 2 players from Splice, and 2 players from Mouse. In my opinion, Mouse are the worst team in Europe, and Splice are the worst team in North America, whereas Ghost are kind of a mid-range team in North America. I can very easily see them making LAN. So, and Illusion's been playing very, very well recently. You know, they qualified for DreamHack with Illusion. So I don't think Illusion's a bad pick at all.
Oh, you would pick him?
I would, yeah, 100%.
I mean, we kind of mentioned it when we talked about doing this video that if you have players on a bad team, they're most likely to be a defender.
Yeah, and that's where the attacker, midfielder, defender thing comes in. So, like, honestly, Dude with the Nose and Jay Wismont, basically I'm saying I wouldn't pick any of the Mouse guys, but any of the top 3 I would pick in this scenario.
I mean, we would be perfectly on the budget if we pick one of these 2.
Yeah.
And if you think that Alushin is his name, right?
Yes.
That he will perform well, I'm going for your judgment here. All right. So let's look at the team.
Yeah.
And maybe talk about positions as well. That we'll give him during the first week. Also, it's I think we both think that it's really important to know when your players are playing and in what week.
Yes.
Because if they're not playing, you can't gain any points. Yeah,
so we're doing this before the actual schedule, the RLCS schedule has been released. So these players might not be playing week 1, so you might have to switch around your team. I might have to switch around my team, but we'll see when it's released.
We'll see when it's released and update.
Yeah. Because if they're not playing, you get 0 points, and there's no point in that, is there? So
Yeah, there's no point in having a player on your team that doesn't score any points.
Exactly.
That's a valid statement. All right. But let's talk about positions here. Like, we obviously have CJC and Garagy as our most valuable players.
Yeah, I think so.
Do you think, like, CJC, I think you put him, you have him also on your team and you put him an attacker, right?
Yeah. As I said, he's a goal scorer. He's, for the last 2-3 seasons, he's been known to be one of the best goal scorers in OCE. And especially with all the lower level teams in the OCE region, he's just going to be smashing in goals all the time. So I think a really good pick for attacker.
Yeah. I think so too, especially because he's in OCE. Like, I don't want to bash the other teams, but you get the feeling that there's just a lot.
There's
a bigger
there's
skill gap.
Icon, which I think are 100% the best team in OCE. Then there's Chiefs and Order, although Order just released the team, but there's a top 3 in OCE and 2 make it to LAN, and then the rest are kind of subpar.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So we have one attacker here in.
I think if you submit team, then you can actually like.
All right. Are we ready to submit? Okay. The team name is fine. It's my team, so let's submit this team. All right. Success. Let's go. All right. Now we can actually move them around. That's a good idea.
Yeah. It's at the bottom of the page.
Oh, here. That's new. Last time it was like. Can you still?
Yeah. Changed it because it was all awkward.
Yeah, it's all awkward. All right. I still enjoy looking at the pictures, though. I mean,
oh yeah, it's cool.
These beautiful faces, if they have any, especially Scrub Killer. I mean, you have to love that face. All right. So attacker CJ is a lock.
Yes.
What about the second attacker?
I'd honestly speed or Scrub Killer. Probably Scrub Killer, to be honest. See, I'm in 2 minds. I don't know. Because Cooks is the goal scorer on F3. I'd say K-Dop is for vitality, but you never know. Honestly, even Garrett staying at attacker would be perfectly fine.
Yeah. Where else would you put Garrett G?
Midfielder.
Okay. But these
that's whether you want
fit better. Yeah.
I think so. I actually think it's automated them into perfect.
Yeah.
Positions already.
It might have. It might have
So,
automated. But what are the options? Like, okay, we could debate that these 2 are attackers and this one is a midfielder.
I think Tadpole and Illusion are fairly set on defenders, though. I wouldn't debate about that at all.
And the reason is that they're on rather weaker teams that would do a lot more defending. And the chances they get more saves is higher.
In Tadpole's case especially, so he's on you'd say weaker team, but him in general he's just a very defensive minded player. Yeah, he's not up to score much. He's staying back, so that fits in perfectly. He's going to get a lot more points saving than scoring with that shooting percentage.
You were referencing the Twitter post, right?
Yes.
Yes, the infamous Twitter post. I'll probably link it in the video description if you want to have a look at it.
In the RLRS run to make RLCS, he literally had like 19% shooting percentage or something.
Yeah, I think he literally did.
Which
but they made it.
They made it, and he still played incredibly that entire season. His shooting just wasn't great.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter if the other guys do the job.
He's still an incredible player, so it's fine.
All right, so this should be golden.
Yeah, looks good.
Team. We'll see what the schedule says once it's released. If all these guys are playing in week 1, if not, we have to make some changes, and that will be quite interesting. Especially if it's a player where we can't find a proper replacement for. Then we might have to switch some other players around. Who knows?
Yeah.
If it comes to this point, then we'll make an update video. I hope you're down for supporting me again.
Yeah, for sure.